moving beyond bootable backups, and can Netflix now be a sports streamer? This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Take Control Books, one of the very best sources of clear, concise information on not only Apple's various operating systems, but also key Apple and third-party utilities and more. Visit TakeControlBooks.com and start your library today. This is an article by Adam Engst that is, sort of summarizes a number of things that we've talked about. And it's the idea that we probably have moved away from the era of bootable backups.
Probably.
Well, this forces it.
Dear sweet Chuck.
Well, as James Bond said, never say never. But it looks like that Apple is really intentionally now blocking this. And a new Super Duper and Carbon Copy Cloner have been dancing around it for a while. And once again, we're back to the issue of security and private. Well, security in this case, that without a bootable backup, it's a lot harder to gain access to your information. So I'm disappointed because this was something I used frequently, but I do understand it. I don't have to like it, but I do understand it and appreciate the fact that Apple is prioritizing privacy.
Chuck, you should go read Mike Bombick's blog post on this.
Okay.
And it might change your mind. I would find you the link for it, but I have a teeny tiny little screen in front of me, and I want to see you not look stuff up.
I got it.
Okay.
I think this is sort of like really apologizing for Apple. I mean, do they not have bootable backups on Windows and Linux? I mean, this is something that Apple has decided because they know what's best for us. And, once again, we don't get to choose how we use our devices. I don't think we should word it as it's time. It's like, no, Apple has screwed us over again.
No, I disagree.
Okay,
I disagree. I mean, I've been watching this from a security standpoint and also from like a system architecture standpoint. And what Apple has done is it's not that they have intentionally deprecated bootable backups. They've simply made it not necessary anymore, because you can at any point, any time, restore your Mac. You have literally everything, either over the internet or on your device. You have everything there that you can have a fully running system. You don't need a bootable backup. What you need is your data. The system itself is protected anyway, shouldn't be changed, whatever. You don't need that. Like it used to be that you needed that bootable backup, that if you screwed up your system, if something happened with the data of the operating system, mostly not your data, that you could go back to it. But you don't need that anymore because Apple ensured that you have that at any point available, however you want it. Like whichever version you even want, you can go back to some extent. So I think it's simply not necessary anymore, and it's actually safer that way.
Patrice, the only pushback I would give, and by the way, I said at the top, I'm accepting of this. It is a lot less convenient because you have to go back through and start to authorize things and give permissions on things. And at least that's what my experience has been when I've tried doing some of these migrations. So,
but that's a different thing. Those are the system authorizations. It's not about the bootable system.
Right. Oh yeah. But it means that every time I do one of these things, I've got to go through the litany of pop-ups that show up and say you need to grant whole disk access.
Yeah,
or
that would still
recording.
happen. That would still happen if you had a fully bootable backup these days, because the security systems in place would still enforce that.
Why not make it a user's choice? If you want to have a preference and say, don't allow bootable backups to be made on this computer, that's fine. But Apple has decided for us.
I don't think there was a decision on their part. I don't think they made at all a decision to say, oh, we're not allowing that. They simply put all the parts and security in place that made it hard for others to do bootable backups. And they've been trying. Like, it's not that they haven't tried it.
Yeah, because how many times with every system update, it seems like both Carbon Copy Cloner and Super Duper
So it was possible in
have done things.
15.1 and not 15.2. I could maybe
Yeah.
see that from a major, like from 14 to 15, but
No, it's the world we live in. Like there is, I mean, we're discussing on the other hand all the hacks that happen, the security stuff that happens, the vulnerabilities that have to be fixed all the time. We live in a world where you have to harden the system in a way that nobody can change it, that it's secure, and that changes from 15.1 to 15.2. It changes every day, to be honest. Like I mean, look at the security documents that Apple puts out and read them. They're not doing that because they're like, oh, we hate backups and we don't want people to do that. No, it's not even about your data and it's less secure if it's on an external device. No, it's not that. It's simply that the system itself has to be hardened against the attacks that they're facing these days so that your data is safe.
So the other software vendors are doing that too? Unix systems, Linux, Windows?
Yeah.
Same thing?
Yes. Yes.
You can't do
they're behind.
backups of any of those either.
They're behind on the security side. That's what you see on Windows, but they're catching up. Apple is actually in the forefront on a lot of things on security, on system security.
Jim, I hear what you're saying about, because that's a drum that gets beaten frequently here, that Apple's making decisions about how we use our devices. But Apple, there's some things that should not be left in the hands of users because they don't understand, they don't appreciate. And if you don't agree with that, then I submit to you that nobody ever would use a password 1234 if they really understood, but they don't. And so, at some point, I am buying an Apple product to have them help me protect myself.
So make that a default. But why? I don't use bootable backups. Okay, so it's not something that is really impacting me directly, but it's just its general thing that I see that it's not our computer, and I don't like that trend. Why even sell me a computer? I'd be safer if I just didn't use a computer at all, or why don't we apps are not safe. We should be locked down like iOS and should not allow anything outside of the App Store. Why does macOS allow that? It's not safe. I mean, where do you draw the line?
Well, that's a fair point, but the horse was out of the barn long before on macOS, and they couldn't lock it down.
That any day, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
This may be just part of it, but I think they're trying to avoid that because of the usability and the uproar that would come. But they're locking down things that they can lock down with minimal uproar.
No, but I see that at every step, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it's okay," and it's like jumping out of the, and they keep turning a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Dave and Patrice are in the queue. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring an enterprise angle to this. Let's go back to CrowdStrike. What happened with that? That every enterprise out there pretty much was using that, and then that caused the blue screen issue we've talked about. I don't need to beat that to death, but other thing too is with Apple and Macs in an enterprise environment, they welcome this because they don't want them to have bootable disks only because that just circumvents security. We got to have the security in place. They have MDMs like Jamf that manages these devices, but you don't want to be able to have it just an end user. Not that most of these end users are that savvy enough to be building bootable disks, but you got to prevent that from it as well. And then we'll add to that, using Apple Business Manager also protects the device because it can't be reformatted because it's locked to a company. So just all those examples alone, looking on the enterprise side of things, they're alone. Why should the consumer side or small business be able to do this anymore? It is a risk. I tend to agree with that.
Patrice?
Yeah, two things to what you said, Chuck. I don't think normal people ever did bootable copies. I don't think that was ever a problem that normal people like normal, not like us people did. I think they just. I think that was that was out of the window, and Apple allowed that. But the article that I think was it Jeff put in the chat, or someone put in the chat.
Apple,
Apple,
sorry.
No, the Mike Bompic one.
I'm sorry, Mike Bompic.
He put it in 2019. He put it quite correctly, and I mean he's part of Carbon Copy Cloner, right? So he would know. External bootable systems are incompatible with platform security, and that's true because there's so much hardware these days in Macs and other actually Windows and other machines. Even Linux is part of that with secure boot and all of that. To as I said, to ensure the security of those systems, that is getting it's very, very hard to do that, and then the question becomes, is it necessary? And I think that's where we ended up, where Apple then said, well, we're not doing it. And the companies that as far as I've seen, Apple was quite, for a very long time, they tried their best to keep it going, to keep it possible, to work with the vendors, to figure out ways to still securely do it. But at some point, everybody had to agree that it's just not necessary and probably not worth the effort. Does it suck for us? Yes.
Yes.
For the people who are from the past, kind of, and are doing bootable backups and like doing that. I never did, but I know plenty of people who do.
Used to.
Yes. Yeah,
I
it's
still know
sure.
people who are
used to is right.
Able to use Extension Manager.
Yeah.
That's it. There were plenty of things that have had to move into the past because of security, as well as just the way that computing has gone. And so, this is one. And Patrice, your point about, this being something that normal people not like us, I think you really hit a big piece there, because they probably would not even know what a bootable backup is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or how to use it. So.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh? What is a backup?
Yeah.
That too.
Really. Yeah. That's another good point. Brian?
Oh, it's just when Jim was mentioning, maybe the default could be changed to, not allowing it, but if you gave permissions and accepted it, maybe you could. It reminded me of earlier when macOS 15 came out. I think it was in 15.1 maybe, where the excessive amounts of permissions to utilize your camera, I think it was, or maybe even camera and microphone.
Screen recording.
Screen recording. There you go. Yeah. It just reminded me. It was just connected in that way a little bit of saying, if it gave permission, but yeah.
Yeah. But we live in a world where it's a balance. And Apple, I think with this one especially, went a little bit overboard for a good reason. But at the end of the day, like, they have to balance what most people need, what do we need, how can it be abused? Like that's the difficult part, and the security engineers from Apple are actually, I think, some of the top in the world right now. Like, look at all the papers they're putting out.
Well, I'll just add one more thing here. I know we're going beating this topic to death here. The enterprise, in the enterprise side of things with these prompts, it's a nightmare, because that just adds to the support team. I'm on the support team. And, why does this keep happening? Why can't you suppress this? So we can suppress it for 1 month. Oh, it's back again. And we go back to Apple and say, hey, we need to have the ability to be able to stop this from happening, because these are trustworthy applications. We've certified it in our network, on our systems, that this application is safe and can be used. But our hands are being tied because you can't suppress those warnings. I understand the principle of them, but it's making life very difficult, not only for enterprise, but even end users too. And there's times, there's plenty of applications we all trust. Why do I want to keep doing this all the time? It's just crazy.
Yeah, because there's people out there that if there was a way to circumvent it, they would.
Right. Yep.
And then use it for bad things. That's the problem. I mean, if we lived in a world where we didn't need that, we could be on Unix, basically. Everything is open, anything you can do. If you're root, you can do anything. Because, who needs permissions in such a world? Like, if everybody is nice, we don't need all of that. Unfortunately, we do.
Yep.
And people that are using Unix are probably quite a bit more tech savvy than the average user.
Oh yeah, no
Hope
question.
so. Not sure,
Yeah, well,
but hope so.
Sorry to break
I
it
hope
to
so.
you. We're all using Unix.
Well, yeah, but
Yes, no, but my point was more about any system, like we wouldn't need all those prompts and permissions and all of that, because there would be nobody attacking and using stuff. Fortunately,
The thing is, I can imagine an announcement that, yep, sorry, no more third-party software is allowed or only through the store. And all the arguments you're using, I think we'd be having the same conversation that, yep, that's required. It's a new world today. And
iOS, iPadOS.
Yeah, old-fashioned people use apps, and that's a relic of the past, and no more.
Could happen.
Well,
and that's why we need governments to step, like the EU, for example, to step in and say, no, Apple, you can't do that.
Oh, but Patrice, you're about to start it
Nice
all over.
way to wrap it all up.
No. Let's do it this way. In the words of someone much wiser than any of us, the needs of the many outweigh the few or the one.
Or the one.
Oh, I thought you were going to hand it off to Webb.
Webb is just sitting there, just master of all he surveys.
I'm glad I'm here.
Yes. All right. Well, this one is for Webb and Jeff, and this will probably be the last one we get to. But
I'm on it too.
So Netflix smashes records with NFL doubleheader on Christmas Day. The first of which was Webb's beloved Kansas City Chiefs winning again. I watched both of these games. The streaming was flawless, unlike I guess the Mike Tyson fight situation. Well, I Dave, I've read about that. I guess I didn't turn it on early enough to see but once they started streaming the games themselves, you would never have known you were watching anything other than
the stream
cable or whatever.
It was.
So you should thank the DevOps and engineering teams behind it, because they probably had a hell of a time getting ready for that and then being on standby and fixing whatever problems came up.
Yeah, the Tyson fight proved their point where Netflix put the reinforcements in immediately, especially as lucrative a contract the NFL contract was with Netflix of $150 million.
Yeah, I was about to say $150 million, and the games were really not that exciting this week.
They were both blowouts. I mean, basically.
Yeah. So, but $150 million, that's I'm wondering if Netflix is going back and thinking, was this a good investment or not? But and just for what it's worth, since Kansas City's a local team, I got the game on my local. I think it's our NBC affiliate that is the home of the Chiefs. So I didn't have that problem.
All four teams in their local markets got to be able to watch it without using Netflix. No, the reason I brought the pregame, other than it was really bad, and the hosts that they had on there were god awful. Interrupting somebody by putting in an ad for a new Netflix series was beyond comical. I mean, she's right in the middle of a sentence, and then boom, it goes into that commercial for a new Netflix movie that's coming up. So, but beyond that, it was good. I mean, when I was mostly watching the KC game, watched most of the Baltimore game, and it went off well.
So does this make Netflix now a player in professional sports? I mean, they definitely learned some things. And Webb, I have to wonder if the $150 million they didn't view as an investment in the future, because now they've proven that even if they have to spend a little extra money to do it, they can deliver some pretty heavy duty streaming. I don't know. I mean, I think it's an interesting development. I know that I've talked to a number of people that were very, very unhappy that they had to have Netflix to watch the games, and then promptly bought a Netflix subscription.
Yeah. No, my only point is that as I've been watching my home football team all season long, and the scores have been very, very tight and very, very close one-score games. And I think Netflix was counting on that, had that excitement in the game, and they just didn't get it this time. That's the only point I was trying to make. So
yeah, no, I agree with you, Webb.
It's funny you say that, Webb, because
Jeff? What do you think?
Well, Jeff almost suffered.
I was super excited about all of this. I was thinking, finally, the network where I went to see all of my favorite sports teams playing, I got to watch the purple costumes and the red costumes.
I just wanted to say the purple costumes.
The green costumes. And it was just so thrilling. Finally, sports the way I wanted it.
Oh, you said purple costumes. I was on the floor.
Right?
Well, Jeff, didn't I see a post somewhere from you that there was let's just say someone you were watching the game with took great offense at your comparison of the game and something else?
Yes. So my dad is watching one of the games, and I think it was
the Vikings.
They're wearing the purple. And they and they pan up and they show the stadium, and it is packed and everyone is excited, and then back to the field, then back up to the stadium, and I turned to my dad and I said something to the effect of, "This just really has a feel like Rome in its decline," and he gives me a side eye, and I think his side eye wasn't because he thought I was just being a jerk, although that's completely possible. I think it was more that he realized I was right.
Wow. Okay, you brought that home, didn't you, Jeff?
Boom.
And so
I'm on fire tonight.
When we come back from our next break, we'll get Jeff's dad on here to talk about his opinion of Jeff's comment.
Get him. He's actually in the other room.
If we weren't down on time, Jeff, I would tell you to do it, but because I want to be respectful of Marty and Eric's the start of their show, so we're going to forego the usual round robin here, where you can find these folks, because you already know them, you love them, and if you don't know them, if you don't love them, then you don't care. But if you don't know, you can find the links in the show notes. I didn't think that exited real well.
No, I think you did.
Yeah. Just a real quick reminder, though, that we are dark next week, the first full week of the year, because of CES, but we'll be back to normal schedule after that. So at this point, I want you to maybe go take a quick break and then look for Vision Profiles on YouTube. Marty, what is the direct URL?
YouTube.com/@Vision Profiles.
Okay, so join us over there, either in the chat room or for those of you that are making the trip over to be on the show, we'll see you there. Yeah. Until then, this is Mac Voices Live. We do this 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday nights, except for next week. And I want to wish everyone a happy and safe New Year. Please be careful out there, because we want to see you back here. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.